Here's my brand new 2024 Chevy Silverado 1500 LT Trail Boss for towing the 92 M3 to the track. Problem is, this brand new Trail Boss already has a major issue. $33 miles in the truck now. I've towed a trailer several times with it, and the issue I have is the power is not right there instantly when I need it. It's the DFM system. What is DFM? It's Dynamic Fuel Management System. What is that? This is GM's way of trying to improve fuel economy. What it does is it shuts down some of the V8 cylinders, so you're not actually firing a V8 at all times. The computer senses that you're more cruising, you don't need all the power. It shuts down some of the cylinders. Why is that bad? It's going to improve fuel economy, Rob. It does. The studies I've read show that the fuel economy is only increased by like 5.5 to 7.3%. So is it really that good? I'd rather have the power, personally. I'd rather have the power on demand. The AFM system, or active fuel management system, that GM employed on V8 motors since kind of the mid 2000s, depends on the model, but on every GM SUV and truck with V8 motors. I think there was even some V6s, maybe the Impala or Malibu had AFM at some point. There were all kinds of issues with AFM, particularly the lifter failures. So they tried to improve on the technology with DFM. With AFM, basically they just shut down half of the cylinders. With DFM, they improved the technology, so you could have any of the cylinders stop firing. So there is a way to solve this. On AFM, there was a company called Range Technology that had something you'd plug into your OBD2 port underneath the dash, which would disable it. And now they've come out with a model for the DFM right here. There's a byproduct. Not only does it prevent the DFM from being activated, it also solves this frustrating annoyance to me, which is the auto off start. I hate this feature. I don't mind that earlier cars used to have this as like an option where by default it would be off and then you could turn it on when you wanted. But now every new vehicle that I sit in, it automatically comes on to start. And you have to manually turn it off every time you get in the car. I think it creates more wear on starter motors, cooling challenges, especially if you've got a turbo car or something like that. And quite frankly, I forget. When I get in the car, I forget to turn it off every time. So Range here not only disables the DFM, but it's also going to disable the auto off start. We're going to show you how easy it is to install, and then we're going to monitor how well it works. I'm actually going to post a video every 25,000 miles to report any issues that I see and to tell you guys how well it's working. I'll walk you guys through the installation. First, we gotta pop the hood. You're gonna take a 10mm socket, disconnect the negative battery. Man, this thing's barely even tightened on here. Brand new truck, and it's like barely even connected. Okay, set that aside. Now, working on the driver's side here, I've turned the wheel all the way left so we can get up into here. Behind this inner fender is the ECM, or the computer. And what we're going to do is remove roughly 6 torque screws. These are T15s. One here, one over here. I've loosened all of these screws. It's 2, 3, 4. It fell right in my hand. 5 here. Here's 6. So you can see it. Now I wonder if you've got an SUV that's not raised up very high, you may have to actually take the wheel off before doing this. I'm not exactly sure, but something mindful of. Depends on your model. Okay, so you just pull this back like this. there's access to our ECU right there, or ECM, I guess GM calls it. We're gonna lift the fender liner up out of the way. The socket we're gonna be plugging into is the bottom one. This one right here. Here's our brand new Range DFM module. It actually is technically called the Inline DFM disabler. Range is actually owned by Holley. So if you're familiar with Holley and their carburetors and so forth, you'll know that it's a good, reputable company. And there's the module, really quite simple. What it does is plugs into the ECM on this side with the Range name. Let's get that on camera there, see where it says Range. That'll be facing driver's side, right? So you plug this into the ECM and then the wiring harness plugs into it. One thing to note is it's got a spring loaded mechanism here that helps lock it in place. When you go to get dealer service, although this product is not supposed to void any warranty, you may want to remove it just in case you ever take it back to the dealership. So to do that, you're going to have to push the spring and then pull it off.
So a couple things to note. You've got this retainer right here, this keeper as it's called, the red thing that you're going to have to pull out like that. It's pretty easy to use your finger. You could use a pick tool, but I was able to do it pretty quickly. And then you have to press down on this, just a piece of plastic. You just kind of push that down and slide that over. And you're going to push really hard because it's got to get to a point where it disengages from the computer and it pulls right off. Make sure the Range name is facing the driver's side. You're going to push this in. Got to make sure it clips. I think I heard it. Let's try to tug on it. Yeah, it's in. Now to remove it again, you push the spring. Let me take two hands. Push that spring. There we go. It's locked in there good. It's a good thing, but take note, if you have to remove it before going to the dealership, you have to give it a good tug after you push that spring. All right, it's in there secure. Now we'll put the harness back over it. You're gonna pull. And you're clipped. And then push the red keeper. We're good. Looks solid.
Now before we put the inner fender back on, let's reconnect the battery. We'll tighten it this time, unlike the assembly plant. Now we're going to start it up, just make sure this thing doesn't blow up on us for some reason. Okay, turned on. Nothing haywire yet. For a test, let's make sure that the remote start still works. All right. Not that I had any doubts, I just wanted to make sure. All right, now that we know that the engine turns on without failure, let's go ahead and reinstall the inner fender here. That was a simple installation. I'd have to go back and look at the timing, but what was it? I'd say 10 minutes, roughly.
So now that I've got 500 miles on the truck since installing the module, I thought I would give a quick update on how it's working. And so far, so great. It's done exactly what I expected in terms of disabling DFM, which is where they shut off, the engine will shut off or collapse lifters on anywhere between 1 and 7 cylinders. And that's what leads to the premature lifter failure. That is now successfully disabled. I've not had any issues with not being able to deliver the power when I need it, or with hearing some strange misfire. Now, granted, I think the stock exhaust is so quiet that people can't really hear when DFM is engaged. But once I install the aftermarket exhaust, you can definitely hear when it's like when DFM is working. And now I don't ever hear that. The other thing is, as a byproduct, it disabled the auto off start, and I love that because I hate the auto off start. Even though on the dash you'll see your light illuminated and it will say, auto stop on, because it overrides what the instrument panel is reporting, and it is disabled 100%. So you don't have to get in the truck and then manually turn it off. It's just always off, even despite what it may say on the instrument panel or the light illuminated on the dashboard. The last thing, though, I will say is that Turns out the module does not disable the 0 cylinder mode. It's nothing to do with DFM because it doesn't collapse the lifters. What 0 cylinder mode does is it shuts off fuel to the motor completely. So none of the 8 cylinders are firing because there's just no fuel delivery. But I will say this much, that 0 cylinder mode only comes on, from my experience over 500 miles, it only is coming on when you're cruising at very low speeds and not using the throttle at all. So it's not like this is happening on the interstate. Like with DFM, I'd be trailering it maybe down to 1 cylinder and I got like no power. It's not like that. This is only when you're like in residential areas such as this, you're cruising at low speeds. Hope you guys found that beneficial. As I said, I'm going to provide periodic updates, so be sure to like the video, subscribe so you can see updates in the future. I'm going to do it every 25,000 miles, so provide any reports on mechanical or electrical issues as a result of the module. But so far, after 500 miles, I'm very happy, not experiencing any issues whatsoever. Check out Range Technology website. They also have AFM modules that plug into the OBD2 port to disable AFM on your older GM V8 engines. Thanks a lot for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you on down the road.